You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream panel discussion on this, a Friday, August 22nd, 2025. I'm David Menzies. My co-host in Montreal is Alexa Lavoie. Bonjour, Alexa.
Bonjour, ça va bien?
See, I'm catching on. I didn't say bonsoir this time, so maybe there's hope for me to be bilingual. And also, for most of the show, we have two special guests. The first is Melanie Bennet. She is an investigative journalist for Juno News. And folks, catch her most recent piece on transgender shenanigans going on in Nova Scotia. It is a real whopper. Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you. And of course, we have Josh Udall, host of the Elevate podcast. And Elevate, folks, if you want to follow Josh, it is spelled ELEV, the number 8. Gee, Josh, that looks like a vanity license plate almost.
It's pretty much what it looks like, doesn't it? We were trying to be cool back in 2020, and well, it seems to have dated itself these days. So
there you go.
Moving on.
Well, we're delighted to have you both. I believe, Josh, you can spend the first 40 minutes with us, and well, Melanie can spend the entire hour. So thank you so much. Well, let's talk about something out of little Lindsay, Ontario, which is making headlines for all the wrong reasons around the world, actually. A homeowner, or an apartment resident, I should say.
Mr. Menzies.
Oh, I forgot. Miss Lavoie has to lay down the ground rules and how people can contribute and make a comment. So sorry. It's such a packed sausage today. I wanted to get right to business. So Alexa, you take it away, and I'll take a timeout.
It's just because there is many ways that you can support Rebel News, and one of them is to contribute by asking some questions during the live stream. So if you feel for it and you want to contribute for $5 and more, we will read your comment on air. So you can actually send us a super chat. You can send it from Rumble and YouTube, and you can also watch us in different platforms as well.
Fantastic, Alexa. And we love to have your comments come in, folks. So as I was saying, Little Lindsay, Ontario in cottage country, making headlines around the world for all the wrong reasons, goes back to an incident on August 18th at 3:20 in the morning when nothing good happens. And that was an intruder doing a home invasion against Jeremy McDonald, who was fast asleep, as most people are at that time in the morning. And, well, the home invader, known to police, was actually wanted by police. His name is Mike Breen. And there's two things I want to focus on, guys. And that is the lack of transparency by the Kawartha Lakes Police Service. It was Rebel News that broke the fact that the name of the intruder is Mike Breen. 41, by the way. The police were not releasing his name. That's odd. He's not a young offender, so why would they shroud that in secrecy? They would not mention what the weapon was, which happens to be a crossbow, which is a lethal weapon. But in any event, a scuffle broke out as Mr. McDonald was presumably fighting for his life. Breen got injured, was later transferred by air ambulance to Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto. And really, it comes down to the whole castle law issue in Canada, or lack thereof. The police chief in Kawartha Lakes said that, yes, under the criminal code, you do have the right to defend yourself, but you cannot be excessive. This, I think, is the crux of the matter. What part is it in self-defense when it becomes excessive? And I just want to say this, I want to hear what the whole panel has to say. I just want to say this. I think I speak for 99.9% of the people viewing this. I think the only 0.1% that wouldn't agree would be liberals in gated communities with security guards. But I think I speak for those people that if you come into my house with a lethal weapon at 3:20 a.m. and you're wearing trouble on your shirt and my wife is home and my children are home, the last thing I am thinking about is, I want to fight back. I want to be the protector, but I don't want to be excessive. I don't want to use too much self-defense. No, I am springing into Papa Bear mode. I have adrenaline coursing through my veins. And whatever the hell happens to that home invader, too bad, so sad. Alexa, what say you, my friend?
It's the same. And this is one of the concerns of a lot of people in Montreal. They have children. They don't know who can break into their home. And they say, how they want me to defend my children when the police takes hours sometimes to get in the scene. So I think it's outrageous to see that someone is being charged because he wanted to protect his home and his family. And I think we should probably reconsider the self-defense law. Like, I'm pretty sure that people should have the right to defend themselves at any cost. I'm sorry, if you break into my home with a weapon, I should be in the right to defend myself at any cost, because most of the people doesn't have any self-defense courses. They don't know how to do it. Most of the time, as you say, it's adrenaline. So you never know how everything will turns out, but you don't want to be killed also. So of course you would defend your own life and the life of your loved one.
Melanie, building on Alexa's point, I can tell you there are U.S. states, Florida, Texas spring to mind. If Mr. McDonald was in one of those states and had a handgun in his night table and shot Breen dead, there would be no charges. It's as simple as that. They have such strong castle doctrine laws there. Is this part of the issue that we need legislative change so that Canadians, law-abiding, tax-paying Canadians, can protect themselves? Because what's the alternative? Are we supposed to be passive victims?
Well, one of the things that Americans seem to value is independence. And by that, I mean independence from the state, which is why it would be an individual's responsibility to actually defend themselves in such a circumstance. But here we seem to rely on, frankly, ineffective policing to deal with these circumstances and then punish the person who is exercising force. I'm unclear. I have a question about this particular instance. Was the offender, his name is Mark, was he charged as well?
Yes, he had 4 charges.
So he had 4 charges, and then there was a charge for excessive force or assault.
For Mr. McDonald, I believe it was assault and aggravated assault.
Yeah, it seems irrational to expect somebody in this particular circumstance with all this adrenaline going on at 3 o'clock in the morning to then sit down and sort of figure out mentally, well, what is excessive force, right? What is a reasonable amount of force? Is it pushing? Should I use some kind of kung fu tactics to tie his arms behind his back? Would that be excessive? I don't understand why. I just don't understand this at all. I think that we should be able to defend ourselves. Frankly, I think Canadians should have a little bit more of a sense of independence, that we should be able to look after ourselves and have the least amount of reliance upon the state to fix our problems for us, frankly.
And Josh, Melanie makes good points, and we mentioned that Breen has been charged with 4 things. What's astonishing to me is that he hasn't been charged with either assault or aggravated assault, because we have it from people close to the scene in Lindsay that, it always comes down to, in a scuffle, the police officer will say, who threw the first punch? Well, I can tell you this. We understand that Breen allegedly used the stock of his crossbow to smash Mr. McDonald's head. He started it. And I guess the saying is, don't start a fight you can't finish. But, I mean, isn't that part of the mystery here? Why isn't Breen, the aggressor with that lethal weapon, even charged with assault?
I think it comes down to we are just seeing our systems in general are a mess. The idea of castle doctrine, castle law really hasn't been talked about in the mainstream ever in this country. And this is the first time it really has. We heard from Doug Ford initially, where, the liberal conservative premier, whatever you want to call him, decided like, yeah, we need castle doctrine now. And I was like, whoa, when did this ever happen? Well, we look at the systemic issues. Well, we have overwhelming amounts of immigration. We have our police systems that are overwhelmed. They are essentially been neutered by our laws. People can't trust their neighbors anymore. And we could actually get away with these laws previously because we were a nation that had everything under control for the most part. And people were like, yeah, this is okay. Now crime is increasing. Now people are breaking into homes. And especially with the addition of social media, you're hearing more of these stories. And now people are like, wait a second, what is going on? So now Canada has lost trust in institutions, has lost trust in the police. They've lost trust in their neighbor. And that comes down to a higher systemic issue that's been happening over the past 10 years that's eroded the trust in our civilization to now Canadians are asking for laws to be finally have their right to defend themselves in a reasonable manner, which I agree with 100%. It is wild, though, that it is coming to the forefront at this point in time because now things are so out of control.
And
Josh,
by the way,
I agree with everything you're saying, but I'll go further one step. I think for the bad guys at home observing this story play out, they're uncorking champagne. They're going, holy smokes, I can break into somebody's house at 3:20 in the morning, brandishing a lethal weapon, assault that person, and I'm going to get a get out of jail free card. Well, maybe not that far, but he's going to be charged for defending himself. That's part of the problem. Alexa, what do you have to add?
Because we are speaking about people and the home invasion, but also it needs to be applied to businesses. We saw lots of businesses where people are breaking through, stealing, and threatening the people working there. They should have also the right to defend their business because we are seeing like more and more people coming into businesses and starting stealing a lot of merchandise.
And, Melanie, to Josh's point, and it's a very good one, it's almost like in Canada that 'twas ever thus, that people getting hauled before the courts for defending their property, defending their life, defending their family. I remember back in 2012 when I was with Sun News, there was a sensational story in Toronto. It was a Indian restaurateur. His name was Mr. Poilievre, and he was having his restaurant broken into by reprobates on a frequent basis. And one time he was still in the restaurant, he threw spices at the would-be burglar, and it was Mr. Poilievre that got charged with assault with a noxious substance. I mean, Melanie, this is insane.
Well, I came to Canada 7 years ago from the UK, and this has been a thing in the UK as well. It's been a big discussion for a long time about how people can't actually defend their homes, and actually, if there's a burglar that comes in and they assault, the homeowner assaults the burglar, then the homeowner also gets charged. So it seems to be getting worse, and I actually agree with Josh quite a bit about how these kinds of rules, like being able to rely on government to handle situations, is a much better situation when you have a high trust society, when you can rely, when there's fewer people, when they all, for the most part, share the same values, and you can sort of know what to expect. You can have that high trust, but we're sort of seeing that decline quite a bit. So yeah, who knows what to do. I hope that there's some castle doctrine laws being put in place, because I think in this particular circumstance, I'm going to come back to this independence. I think people need more liberty to be able to look after themselves. If you can't rely on the system to look after you, need to be able to look after yourself.
Oh, Melanie, I've always been so envious of our brothers and sisters south of the border. First Amendment, Second Amendment, and all the other amendments that follow through. Josh, one thing we didn't talk about, and I guess I'm going to ask you to speculate because I can't figure it out. I can't connect the dots. The secrecy by the Kawartha Lakes Police Service. they wouldn't name Mr. Breen. We went to Lindsay and started knocking on doors, and we were able to get that information. They wouldn't name the weapon, and it wasn't, a kitchen spoon. It was a crossbow. It's something that could take down a moose. Given especially that Breen, shockers, was already wanted by police for a probation violation, why are they treating this guy like a young offender?
Well, it's because we're in a two-tier society, Dave. We're in a two-tier society. The reality is people who commit crimes are going to be awfully more protected. And I don't know where this comes from. I don't understand it. I think it comes from a leftist ideology that has pervaded over the years, saying that people who, were, mischarged and weren't charged properly were then getting attacked in public. And so they want to protect those identities at the time, which I can understand that can happen from time to time, but that is not the majority of the time. And so they took those laws and they started to apply it across the board. We got to make sure we protect the identities of the criminals because someone might attack them or someone might give them a hard time in the Tim Hortons line. That was the reality of what we're currently seeing. I think I'm seeing this play out more and more is the reason, and it's gotten to a point of absolute lunacy to that point, right? So I think that's where it started. This is where it's ending, and it's where it's going to continue, and likely the reason why police didn't want to name them is because they also probably didn't want to be charged either.
Unbelievable. I don't know what the charge would be. This is vital information in the public interest, Josh, but I agree with your points. I think at all our airports and at all our bridge crossings, we should put a new slogan for Canada, which would be, "Welcome to Canada, rewarding the takers, penalizing the makers," because as far as I can see, this is yet another example of that. Now, before we go further, I mentioned it's getting attention all over the place, including Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. I believe we have a video clip of Premier Smith weighing in on this. Let's see what she has to say, and I'd like to get your thoughts afterwards.
Premier, I wanted to get your reaction to a incident, I believe, in Lindsay, Ontario, where a man is now facing criminal charges for defending himself from a home intruder. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Well, if you don't want to get shot or beaten up, don't break into people's houses. It's pretty straightforward. We had a similar incident in Alberta where somebody defended themselves, and they determined that there was not a reasonable likelihood of conviction, because we do expect that people are going to use a reasonable use of force to defend themselves and their families, and I support that.
Premier, I wanted to get your reaction to...
Wow, Alexa, I love Premier Smith, but you know what? I can already see the left-wing mainstream media crafting the narrative. Ooh, listen to that toxic femininity. As far as I'm concerned, she spelled it out as clear as daylight. You don't want to get hurt? Don't break the law. Don't go into somebody's home at 3:20 in the morning brandishing a weapon. Your thoughts?
She's totally right. And this is the perfect example of leadership and saying, listen, if you don't want to be injured, if you don't want to maybe being shot, just don't break into the home that is not yours in the middle of the night. And you see Florida said about the same thing. They say, if you don't want to get shot, do not break into a place that is not yours. And I think this is the perfect example of someone who has common sense and who has a perfect leadership.
100%. And Melanie, when we went to Lindsay to do a little investigative work, we found out that Breen, he had climbed up a fire escape, went along the roofs of 3 businesses, a dollar store, a cinema, and the Pizza, got onto the roof of Mr. McDonald's place, broke in through the window where his daughter normally sleeps. I believe she's 11 or 12. Thank God, by a happy coincidence, she wasn't home that night. But what I think of is, in the animal kingdom, it's always fight or flight when your backs are against the wall. When you walk in to the forest and you happen upon a bear cub, and you're not hunting, you have no malice. If Mama Bear is a football field away, guess what? You are in the most dangerous piece of real estate in the world. I mean, let me just ask you personally, if somebody, a burglar, invading your home at 3:20 in the morning with a weapon, what would you do?
Well, I think I would probably react like the homeowner, but we're not animals. We're not animals, and we have an empathy drive. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently, how this empathy drive, this higher cognition that we have as human beings, is sort of turned on its head, right? I think Josh kind of touched on that just slightly, where, you know, we want to be empathetic. We want to give people a chance. We want to protect individuals who might have had a bad time. But that's been flipped on its head now, where the young girl, the daughter, perhaps needs more empathy and protection in this particular case. But we're giving empathy to the most marginalized. We're giving empathy to the criminal. You know, we're saying perhaps, you know, he does deserve a break after being charged multiple times and, you know, being wanted and so on and so forth. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think we need to talk about that more. You know, who are we having empathy with? Who are we sympathizing with? In this particular case, I fully agree that I think we should have, you know, we should be empathizing with the people who are vulnerable. In this case, it's not the criminal, it's the family.
100%. And Melanie, the fact that he was on a probation violation, to me, that means he should have been in jail in the first place. And if he was, guess what? This garbage would never have happened. But we see it over and over with the Liberals, with these lax rules for letting even the most serious offenders, up to including attempted murder, people getting out on the street. And Josh, to my point of fight or flight, here's where I stand. When you are in your home, you cross the finish line. There is nowhere else to run to. You have no option but to stand your ground. What say you?
I honestly think we should, someone breaks into my home, I think I should put the kettle on, flip it on, set up some green tea, and let's have a discussion about it. Why are you here? What's going on? What brought you to this point in your life? I think that's the point we should be having. Obviously, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, I agree. It is your stand your ground situation. If someone comes to my house in the middle of the night, well, it's where do I go? Well, there are even in the states, there's Democrat states that agree that say you will have a duty to flee out of your house if you're broken in the middle of the night. You cannot even engage with the intruder. And it's like, whoa, how did we get here? And Canada at this point is pretty much saying that with these laws and the way they're treating this situation is, yeah, even if they break into your home, willing to lay the smackdown on you, you got to try and get away and leave your home and let them do whatever they say please. And I agree with you on that one, Dave, is we should be able to stand our ground and be able to protect our loved ones, our home, and the thing that we get solace in at the end of the day, that we leave the workplace, we leave school, we go to our homes to feel safe. And when that's threatened, you should be allowed to defend it.
You know, Josh, that example you gave in some Democrat state, well, where else, you know what, don't stand your ground, run out the back entrance. Well, think of the logistics there. If you have young family members, right? I mean, that's not even possible. And you know, and to the police chief's bizarre statement, yeah, you can defend yourself. Don't go too far defending yourself. So what are we supposed to do, Alexa? Do we sit down with the home invader and go, I see you have a crossbow. Is it loaded? Oh, no? Okay, so you're just going to use it as a blunt force object? I see. So I just want to know if I should fight you with a wooden spoon or my Louisville Slugger baseball bat. I mean, this is unreal insanity.
Yeah, and most of the time, the people will break into your home will probably have an illegal firearm. What we as a legal abiding citizens cannot have. So how do you want to defend yourself if the person has a gun? like you would try to do your best, but a gun is a gun, and when it's illegal because the liberals are not cracking down on illegal firearm. They are cracking down on the legal one. And so what we are seeing is like, now you cannot defend yourself, but you cannot have also a firearm to defend yourself. And so they can't have it.
100%. And I'll just end the discussion on this, guys. The police chief also said in his media release of 2 days ago, and to me it came across so condescending. People should know that charges are not convictions. Yeah, Chief, guess what? As Jeremy McDonald defends himself in a court of law, and he doesn't have a lot of money, let me tell you this. We're looking at high 5 figures, maybe even 6 figures. So the process is the penalty. It's like, hey, Mr. McDonald, you've been found not guilty. Oh, by the way, here's your bill for $107,000 in lawyer's fees. And on that note, I want to reach out to our audience. We're not abandoning Jeremy McDonald. We, in addition to our journalism, we are crowdfunding his plight. It's savejeremy.com. That's savejeremy.com. He needs our help. We have to pay his legal team to get him justice because, as I said, the process is the penalty in Canada. And I don't like re-victimizing the victim. So please go to savejeremy.com. Now, switching gears, I see Mark Carney is just had a presser less than an hour ago. And I think we have some video of that. So let's see what Captain Canuck has to say about the ongoing tariff wars. I wonder if it's good news or bad. Let's check it out. Oh, we're just looking for that. By the way, I know Fan Expo is in Toronto this weekend. That's where all the comic book geeks come out. Do you think anyone's dressing up as Captain Canuck?
Can I add to the legal case, to the funding of the legal case? I was just at a Free Speech Union event yesterday, and they're an organization that are looking to help people who find themselves in a position of lawfare. And, you know, they were talking about how many of these prosecutions are just what you were talking about. It's just it's a way of handing people these huge legal bills, right? And so that's another organization that you might want to support as a free speech union if people are interested in helping some of these issues. But what you're doing is fantastic because a lot of people can't actually afford to go through the legal process and defend themselves against many of these completely spurious charges. So I think it's fantastic that you guys are doing that.
Well, thank you, Melanie. I mean, it goes back to the COVID days when we had our Fight the Fines campaign. Do you know we took on more than 5,000 cases, and I don't think we suffered a single defeat. So we have to take a stand against tyranny. So thank you for that. I think we have Prime Minister Carney. Let's see what the PM has to say.
So let's be absolutely clear. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States. And while it's different from what we had before, it is still better than that of any other country. So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital. We do everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised CUSMA, our free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, as well as developing a new form of trade and security partnership with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment to CUSMA, I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Oh, first of all, why is it anytime anyone says, let me be perfectly clear, they then go on to muddy the waters? Secondly, what happened to elbows up? That sounds like knees down. And you know, by the way, forgive me for going on a tangerine here, but is that not the most stupid phrase ever? I mean, elbows up. That is a penalty in hockey. Did anyone think this through? And I know, Alexa Lavoie, you were a top-ranked ringette player in Quebec back in the day, so you know what I'm talking about. But Alexa, this was his big announcement?
There were no announcement, like saying promises, doing some promises again, promises that we will probably not see the lights soon. Again, Mark Carney was elected mainly because of the tariff trade. And what we are seeing, the tariff war, and what we are seeing is like we still don't have a deal. We're still at the same position. Now we are seeing tariff that have increased. We are seeing that inflation is getting worse, immigration is getting worse. So for the people who actually voted for elbows up, they should be elbow down at the moment.
Oh, 100%. Melanie, I understand probably the three most affected Canadian industries due to the tariffs are steel, aluminum, and auto manufacturing. I was hoping for some kind of announcement to help these multi-billion industries recover from tariffs, but it looks to me that Mark Carney is fitting the definition. There's a saying out west, all hat, no cattle. What say you?
I don't know, I'm not surprised about that announcement because it seems to me that Mark Carney's been put on the sidelines by Donald Trump and his cabinet. I mean, that's been pretty obvious for a while. So I don't know, maybe this is his way of trying to find some good graces with America and maybe get a better deal with Canada. But I'm no economist in any way, shape or form, but I thought that tariffs on American products actually harmed Canadian consumers. And if that's the case and we're removing those tariffs, shouldn't that be helping Canadians? Like, have I got this completely wrong?
No, I don't. No, I think it hurts all consumers. I mean, in a perfect society, I would be a strong free market supporter. I understand Trump's strategy of bringing back business to the U.S., and he's so far brought back, I think, in the neighborhood of $15 trillion. Earlier this month, Apple announced an investment in the U.S. I think it was over $600 million US. So I understand that part. But tariffs at the end of the day are a tax. It hurts consumers. Josh, what do you think? I mean, and I want to concentrate on something here. The Carney apologists, because he's been in office over 100 days. I don't see anything happening. And they'll say, well, how can you give Carney a break? Big bad orange man. He's so irrational. He's so rash. You can't deal with a moving target like that. And I go, well, dozens and dozens of other countries have tariff agreements in place, including Mexico. So why can't we, especially given this was the #1 platform Mark Carney ran on?
I will answer that in like 1 second. There's something I wanted to add that really percolated when Carney was speaking there, which I thought was very interesting. Did you catch what he said there? We're going to match the United States and take tariffs on items that are under CUSMA. You heard that. Did I hear that right? Is that what was said?
I believe so.
Okay, he said that. Pete Hoekstra showed up on Jasmine Lane's podcast last week saying what Canada's doing is they are tariffing goods underneath CUSMA. We're not doing that. They're doing that, and that is bad faith. Then CBC, CTV, the mainstream media went on a whole tirade saying he is lying. That's not true. That's not happening. He's living in an alternative reality. Mark Carney shows up today and says, we're going to take off tariffs on goods under CUSMA. So who's lying now? Is Carney in an alternative reality? Or is the ambassador to the United States lying on Jasmine Lane's podcast? What is happening? I can't wait to hear CBC and CTV and their panels talk about that today. And getting to your question there, Dave, was the Carney apologists is what's happening right now is our country has been ravaged by Justin Trudeau. That happened. And the reason why people are saying Mark Carney's doing such a good job is because he is doing nothing. Trudeau is doing all the wrong things, and Carney's doing nothing, which in the eyes of the Canadians who have been traumatized by poor government policy is, well, nothing is better than all the things Trudeau is doing. And so I think that's the reality that they're living in. And the people I talk to in Nova Scotia who are left-wing people, that is genuinely how they view it, is like, Mark Carney's doing nothing and he's staying out of my way. In terms of the stories I'm seeing, all I'm seeing is Donald Trump, which again, we can talk about the media's influence on that, but that is where they're at. And that's why they think he's doing such a good job, is because they're not hearing about him by our media.
Yeah, it's so true. His approval rating has only gone down 2%, and his disapproval rating is only 27%. I don't get it. Josh, I know you have to sign off in 3 minutes. I'm going to bounce one last thing off you before we say adieu. And it's this, and at the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, I really believe Mark Carney is not sincere. I believe Brookfield Asset Management is running Canada. I believe Mark Carney would prefer the U.S. to excel at our expense. Why? Because the lion's share of his assets in his blind trusts are U.S. based. So I don't think he really has skin in the game. I don't think his spirit is all about Fortress Canada. Your thoughts, Josh?
I think there's definitely an element of that. I think what we're really seeing is, well, not and say really, but I think it's in addition to what you just mentioned, is the fact that we're in a minority government. And right now, Mark Carney's been playing that like weird milquetoast policy, not doing a whole lot, but doing enough to like make you feel like he's like conservative/liberal and all this nonsense. And right now what we're seeing is Carney trying to win goodwill of everybody and trying to increase those approval ratings, because word on the street, come wintertime, he's looking to call an election. And he wants to make sure that he has done nothing rocks the boat too much, so that he can get that majority and then start really pushing the green initiative, start pushing the net zero, so that Brookfield can ultimately benefit at the end of the day.
You know, Josh, I wouldn't be surprised. It sure worked for Doug Ford. He allegedly needed a mandate in the middle of winter, even though he had almost 2 years left, and he played the whole tariff card thing, and he got an even bigger majority. So I'm sure Carney is looking to how his friend prospered. And they really do seem buddy-buddy for some reason, but that's another topic. Josh, I know you've got to go. Please tell our folks at home how they can tune in to your podcast, Elevate.
100%. Last thing, too, is ask yourself why USMCA and these deals aren't being done right now. And that'll put you where you want to put it. Where you want to focus in terms of what Mark Carney's doing. But where you can watch the Elevate podcast is you can watch us on YouTube, Spotify, anything where you can get a podcast. That's where we are. And you can find us at the Elevate podcast, ELEV8 podcast. And we'll be happy to have you. We talk politics, what's going on Canadian national level, and everything, and try to do it with a little bit of a lighter view on it so it doesn't get too depressing as you're watching.
Great stuff, Josh. Thank you so much for joining the panel today, and I hope we have you back real soon, and continued success with your podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
You got it. And right now, folks, we have to take an ad break. We'll come back on the other side. And, well, knock me down with a feather. It's Mark Carney addressing the whole elbows up rubbish. Let's see what he has to say in the reality of the here and now. Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again, and that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. this is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again. And I love that truck with the Jumbotron. It's my second favorite vehicle in the entire world, my first being the AMC Rebel the Machine, which, alas and alack, was only produced 1 year, 1970. So it's really hard to get that, and I can't afford it anyways. But never mind. Alexa, I believe you have an ad read as well.
Yeah, but I want to invite everybody who wants to take part of the Canada Strong and Free Network Conference. I took part of those conferences multiple times in Ottawa, but this time it would be in Calgary on the 5th and the 6th of September. And the theme this year is the West Place in Canada. So you will hear from some of the biggest voices in Canadian politics and media, like Premier Danielle Smith, we love her, Preston Manning, Conrad Black, and Tristan Hopper. So you can purchase your tickets right now at canadastrongandfree.network. So I would say I took part of those to those network conference, and I would say like it's really interesting. You have a lot of different panel. You can hear from so many different views, and I think it's really interesting. So I invite you to go and take your ticket right now.
100%. And I got to tell you, I love every single speaker on that panel, except one. Anyway, why don't we move on to, I think I teased the Carney elbows up clip. Do we have that, guys? All right, let's see what he has to say about his most favorite hockey metaphor.
Pretty much every stop during the election, you referenced elbows up and saying that was going to be the strategy you take with the Americans. You also consistently said that Donald Trump was trying to break us so he could own us. Your new argument today is that Canadians should accept basically the best of a bad deal. What's been the change?
Wait. I reject the premise of that question, or your characterization of what I'm saying. We have the best deal with the United States right now. Okay, we have the best deal. Look at the numbers. Our tariff is 5.5%. We have 85% of our goods are free trade. It's not what we used to have. Nobody has a deal with the United States that they used to have. Nobody does. They have fundamentally changed. It's their right. We respect it. They have fundamentally changed their trade policy. They have new objectives. And they haven't just talked about those objectives. They put in place tariffs, and they have signed a series of trade deals, including with the European Union, including with others, that have put those into effect, okay? So we're in a position where we have held out, not signed a deal that we don't agree with or that we don't think is in the best interest of Canadians, but and focused on, and we will remain focused on those strategic sectors to the best interests of Canada first. Of course, America will focus on the best interests of the U.S. But we do so from a position where we're respecting, with this decision, we're respecting our agreement with the United States, and we are matching what they have done. That puts us in a good position for these for the next phase of these negotiations.
Oh, well, you know, like that little green animated figure says at the end of Just for Laughs gags, "Mommy, it's over. The trade war is done." He said we have the best deal. You know what this reminds me of, Alexa? Remember that famous photo op with President Bush, I think on an aircraft carrier, with the sign, "Mission accomplished"? Yeah, we've taken care of all the problems in the Middle East and Afghanistan. That's what I hear when he says we have the best deal. That's quote, end quote, mission accomplished. Are you buying that?
First of all, we don't have the best deal. So look at our condition before and after. Now we are like in the worst position like than before, and to compare to other countries as well. So I don't know what he's saying, and look at how it was like mad at the journalist just for kind of bringing his words together and saying like a question to him, and he get really mad at the premises of the question. And I remember that Stephen Guilbeault always refused the premises of my question. This just means I do not agree with you. It's not because you believe that we have the best deal that is true. Because at the moment, I believe that is wrong. And I believe that now we are in a worse position than before.
And Melanie, to Alexa's point, if we have the best deal, how do you sell that to the industries I mentioned earlier, steel, aluminum, and auto production? I can tell you, I'm working on a story about this. It's an unnamed source at Chrysler in Windsor, a veteran of almost 30 years at the plant. And the rumor there, and it's just rumor right now, is that huge manufacturing facility in Windsor is going to be shuttered. He told me they've already lost production of the next generation Jeep Compass. That's gone. It's going to be produced in the US. And this might be mothballed. For Windsor, this is devastating. Their employment is already 11.2%, the highest it's ever been since these numbers have been tracked. So I guess what I'm saying, Melanie, if you're in those industries, if you're a resident of Windsor and you see Mark Carney say we already have the best deal, are you buying that?
I don't know that it matters. I think for a long time, the Liberal Party have taken the tactic that if you keep repeating a lie, it becomes the truth. And then I'm watching this, and immediately I was thinking of look inside yourself, Rosemary. Look inside yourself, Rosemary. It's time for you to start asking the questions in the way that I want you to ask them, and for you to see it the way that we're seeing it. And if your facts are correct, doesn't matter. I'm gonna correct you with these lies. So I don't think those numbers matter, and I'd like to see more Canadians being a lot more critical about what anybody in the Liberal Party is actually saying. I am seeing a little bit of a glimmer of hope in that sense, because it does seem to me that many of the people who voted for the Liberals, including some of the people in the Liberal media right now, are starting to question what Mark Carney is saying. I'm seeing some people actually starting to criticize what he's saying. So perhaps they also have realized that their elbows maybe needed to be slightly down.
Unbelievable. You said two things that put a smile on my face, maybe for the wrong reasons, but this whole idea of keep repeating a lie often enough. I seem to remember a very evil propaganda minister of a certain regime, subscribing to that saying, and that incredible quote, look inside yourself, Rosemary. The first time I heard that, Melanie, I was like beside myself. I go, where have I heard this before? Alexa might know where I'm going with this because I did a little video about it. I've heard this line before. I'm going to put you on the spot, Melanie. Can you name me which pop culture figure uttered that line, look inside yourself?
If they're Canadian, probably not.
Oh, definitely not. A very famous Brit, as a matter of fact, Dr. Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs when he was interrogating Agent Starling. Yeah, so, nothing to fear here, Alexa. Mark Carney channeling a Nazi propaganda minister and perhaps the most famous fictional serial killer in pop culture. What say you, my friend?
But we are now laughing and we are saying like, okay, we all realize that something is wrong and that we are not better off with like Carney, but there's still some people at home who are looking at the mainstream media who will listen to Mark Carney and they will say, he's doing a great job. It's true. We have the best deal. And I'm pretty sure if you go in the street and ask the people, if you believe that we have the best deal right now because of Mark Carney, I'm pretty sure there will be a big portion of the population who will believe what he said.
If that's the case, Alexa, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a pessimist, then our country is lost. It really is. And I just have despair in my heart that his approval ratings after doing nothing for more than 100 days has only gone down 2%. I don't know if there's a Canada left to reclaim. But how about we speak, Alexa, of your province? This looks like a very expensive photo op regarding Elbows Up. The Quebec Liquor Board is getting ready to destroy $300,000 worth of American wine, I believe it is. Alexa, what's going on?
Elbows up. So at first, they removed the American alcohol because they say that they wanted to send a strong message to the American and they wanted to do an impact on them. But at the end of the day, we paid taxpayer for those alcohol that we will destroy. Where actually is hurting the American is actually hurting the taxpayer in the Quebec province for doing this. And why didn't just say, we will use that alcohol that we already paid for and we'll just sell it for a cheaper price. So that will give a good thing for the taxpayer and we will in the same time not buy and purchase more from the American. But as of right now, why removing product that we already pay for? It's not hurting them, it's hurting us.
That's a great point, Alexa. They're doing, I think, Melanie, virtue signaling, but on the taxpayer dime. And they're even going a further step than Ontario did earlier this year. I call it Doug Ford's $1 billion photo op. They're pulling all the California wines and the Kentucky bourbons off the shelves of the LCBO stores. That was more than $1 billion worth of stock. What I'm saying, Melanie, is that I know we're not economists on this panel discussion, but it would seem to me, even if you subscribe to we're not going to do any business with the Americans when it comes to alcohol, wouldn't it have made sense just to sell off the existing inventory instead of plucking it off the shelf, putting it in a warehouse, which costs money, and sending the bill to the ever-beleaguered taxpayer? I think this is virtue signaling madness on our dime, Melanie.
Well, I don't think you need to be economists to think about this in other ways, because when I read this story immediately, I thought of Canada. Canada right now wants to be this. We talk about elbows up. It's all about its solidarity against these tariffs with America. We're one big family. We're all in this together. But if you think about the metaphor of a family, if Canada's a family, our family is tightening the belts. We're not doing well. The economy's not doing well. We've got to pinch our pennies. And if that's the case, are you going to retaliate against, let's say, a neighbor that you're having a fight with by throwing out all your groceries? You're not going to do that because we don't have any money. We don't have things to spare because of TIFs. So I would like more Canadians to think of it this way. If we're all a big family, is your family going to throw out all of your belongings because you're having an argument with a neighbor?
It's insane. And Alexa, even if it's a matter of some of these products have a best before date, okay.
It's alcohol. It's alcohol.
No, I heard this just coming into headquarters today. Evidently, rosé in a box. There was a finite time, and that's one of the products they're going to pour down the drain. But if that's the case, put it on clearance. 50% off. Move the merchandise. At least get something back for the provincial coffers. Why won't they do that?
It's Quebec. I'm not really surprised. Sorry for saying that, but this is Quebec. I don't think logical is part of their plan. But, alcohol, it's still good after the due date, I would say. It's alcohol. And so instead of, I would say, putting in clearance, at least getting some money from those products that we already paid for, that will help taxpayer because we actually spend that money. So who is going to pay us back? And what they are going to do with those alcohol? And first of all, it's not the first time that the SAQ, it's like the LCBO, the monopoly of the government for the alcohol. It's not the first time that they are under the radar for some scandal like that about alcohol. So I'm really surprised that we are seeing this again? Not really, but I know that a lot of people are really mad. A lot of people are really mad to not have access to bourbon because it's from US.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're looking at one right now. But Alexa, in the Department of Silver Linings, thanks to Premier Ford doing that ridiculous move of pulling bourbon, well, guess what? Earlier this month, I went over to Detroit, and you know what? I discovered a new bourbon, the best bourbon I've ever had. It's called Booker's. It's not cheap. And by the way, I'm not being paid to say this. This is not an endorsement. This is just from the heart. So in other words, you know what, Dougie, thank you. Thank you for taking away all the other bourbons that you sold at the LCBO, because you made me discover what might be the best bourbon I've ever had. So shame on you. But
and by the way,
yes,
I went to Plattsburgh recently, and what they were saying is like, we see a lot of Canadian coming here and buying some bourbon and some American product because they cannot have it like in Montreal or in Canada. So we actually simulate their business.
Yes.
While here in Canada, we are penalizing our business.
You know, Melanie, I'm going to extend Alexa's point even further in terms of the insanity of it all. She's talking about Plattsburgh, New York. That's one of the crossover points to Quebec. And we've got to, get creative in hiding our bottle, find some kind of nook or cranny in our car or trunk that in case we're pulled over for inspection, because they'll throw the book at you. But if you're an illegal alien, hey, come on in. The RCMP will reinvent themselves as bellhops. Can you make sense of this?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is back to, why is there even a government organized board that's controlling what liquor you can and cannot purchase?
Oh, yeah.
Right? If the government is not going to be, obviously not going to be responsible fiscally with the products that they buy, that they would rather destroy them rather than recoup money or even put them in storage, because Alexa is correct. Alcohol ages and people spend a lot of money on aged alcohol, so it's not going off. Right? So if the government's not going to be responsible with these boards, and why do we even have these boards in the first place? I recall, wasn't it in Ontario, the LCBO had big protests before, and I think people were even asking, why do we even have an LCBO? Why can't people purchase alcohol themselves?
I'll tell you that because I've covered the LCBO for some 30 years, Melanie, and they based their entire existence post-prohibition on social responsibility. It's a phrase that's meaningless because when there is secret shopper surveys, LCBO versus convenience stores versus the beer store, the LCBO tends to have the worst uptick rates. We did a hidden camera expose of a 15-year-old boy buying hard liquor at 3 LCBOs, no muss, no fuss. So it's built on a lie, the premise that they're socially responsible. Big business, you see, they're not government. They'll sell the booze to the youngsters when the exact opposite is true. There's two things government has a role in when it comes to the booze business: regulation and taxation. That's it. No warehousing of it, no retailing of it. That is the private sector. So that, it's outrageous that government for this one product, and well, not just that one product, lottery tickets too. They have a government monopoly on that as well. They have no business being there except for the regulations and the taxes on those products. Before we wrap things up, ladies, I believe, Alexa, we have some super chats.
Oh yeah, we have a lot. I don't know
fantastic.
where to start. So we have we have a lot. So we have EE, $5. Thank you. Given that the government sent riot police to break up peaceful protests and froze bank accounts, do you think Alberta has a chance to separate? Oh, separation.
I think Alberta separation is a real thing. I think, Alexa, with all due respect, you had 2 kicks at the candidate. I think Alberta separation is more of a real thing than Quebec separation. Yeah. I would argue that since the mid-90s when the last referendum took place, the demographics have changed so much in Quebec that this is off the table. And I think it should be taken seriously. What say you, Melanie?
I've been watching that, and I do think Westerners are very serious, and I don't think it's just Alberta. I think if it is successful in Alberta, they face a couple what I perceive to be potential interesting moments, and whether or not they want to replicate Canada in Alberta just as a sovereign, other Canada, or whether they want to actually completely start afresh and redo an entirely new constitution and this whole thing. So it's interesting to watch. I think they absolutely have a chance. And if they did separate, I can fully imagine other provinces following suit, and not just other provinces, but people throughout the country wanting to join whatever the new Western Albertan nation.
Yeah, I can't blame them for wanting to leave when you have literally trillions of dollars of mineral wealth trapped underground. The people in Ottawa, I mean, it reminds me of Ronald Reagan's joke, the biggest lie ever told. Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. By the way, Alexa, let me put you on the spot. How did you vote in the referendum, if you did indeed vote?
Yeah, I was too young.
Oh, shame
it's
on me.
1995. The last one, I think I was 9 years old or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, well,
So,
you should have just identified as an 18-year-old. There you go. Alexa.
Maybe, yes. But there is a big difference between the separatist movement from Quebec and the one from the West. The West is led by right-wing mainly, center-right, and Quebec was led by leftist, center-left. So there is also like a different movement of political affiliation who lead like the separation movement. And as of right now, we know that our next government, the Parti Québécois, this is its first promise to lead a new referendum, a third referendum. But you see, like Lucien Bouchard, I don't know if you know of who I'm talking about. Lucien Bouchard was one of our previous premier in Quebec and also the leader of the Parti Québécois, that is the separatist movement, himself say that the leader now of the PQ should review and reconsider to do a third referendum because they say that economically, Quebec cannot hold like a referendum. We are not doing well, and it's just going to hurt us. And we don't have the money to lead another referendum because it's really costly. So this is what is happening in Quebec, and most of the people don't want to talk about it anymore. And I think it's the lowest rate of support for a third referendum. So I think Alberta have more chance to reach something from it. But I will say it all depends if the decision if they win, do the government, the federal government will actually recognize it. So that's another part of the story.
Well, Alexa, I think somewhere in the great hereafter, René Lévesque weeps. Do we have some more?
That was a really amazing person, though, eh? So we have Anna Lisa S. She gave 27.99.
Wow.
And she say, it's wonderful to see you both, especially my sweet Menzies, sending all of your support and love. Keep up the good work.
Oh, please,
you.
Annalise, I bet you say that to all the girls, don't you? But thank you so much for that generous donation. You made my day.
We have Lextan of Lextan Media, $5. Thank you. I was bullied constantly in grade school, but I got in trouble for fighting back when bullies would try to touch me or my personal property. Systemic.
Wow. You know what? And I think if this is the same Lex Tan, who I think it is, he's involved with the Greg Carrasco show on Saga 960. And Greg is just a fantastic broadcaster as well as a hell of a salesman. And by the way, I'm going to give Lex a shout out here because it was the subject of their last show last Saturday. So I'm not telling tales out of school. Lex is desperately looking for a girlfriend. It's been 8 years. Okay, this isn't a dry spell. This is a desert. Okay, so if there's any ladies that want to follow up on Lex Tan, he's a super nice guy, and he would never let you down during a home invasion. Let me tell you that. There you go.
Yeah. Do he sponsor you or something like that? So we have Alberta done, $5. Thank you. Castle law needs to be absolute like Florida. What if there are two seniors in the home? First fight, fist fight. In Canada, you also need to consider ethnicity of the intruder if you are charged. And that's true because you saw what happened, I think it was in Quebec, the first lowest sentence for racialized people. So now we are giving a lower sentence if you're a Chinese or if you're black or if you are like from a minority place. And this is again showing a double standard, two-tier system, two-tier justice system. And it's true what he's saying because in Quebec, we actually had that recently and that was really outrageous.
And you know, Melanie, let me get you to weigh in on Alexa's comments. I mean, the icon of Lady Justice is, you know, she's holding the scales in one hand, the sword in the other, and a blindfold. I would argue that blindfold these days in the courts, it's been replaced with X-ray glasses. I mean, it's like, it's a multi-tier justice system. That's not justice.
Yeah. Rule by law or rule by law, which is what Bruce Pardy basically says, that we are no longer really a country of, we're basically ruled by laws, right? We don't no longer have the rule of law. And in this case, the laws that we're ruled by are intersectional social justice laws, which must take into account somebody's racial background and potentially their sexual identity and so on and so forth. But when you think about this, when you actually think about it logically, if you give special status to certain individuals, if we're talking about crime or bullying at the schools, for an example, what will happen is that people will start picking up on the fact that, okay, well, I have special privileges, so there's a certain level of entitlement that develops, knowing that you may not have the full consequences for your actions, and then so that might actually encourage more crime to happen, and then the stats go up. And so, for example, with this, you know, if we look at disparity data, you might see that, okay, well, the crime for a certain ethnic minority is going up without considering, well, what are the effects of the DEI actually on, or you know, giving certain privileges to certain groups. What effect is that having? So I'm worried that all of this is actually increasing crime and that we're not addressing the root cause of these issues. But I go on a tangent here because that's something that I focus on quite a bit.
No, but yeah. Melanie, what you're saying is not conjecture. I mean, right now in the GTA, there is a prevalent trend of gangs purposely recruiting gang members who are under 18. And why wouldn't they? The pitch
Well, the same thing happened in the UK. That's exactly what was happening in the UK. Because they know, the gangs know the law. They know that certain individuals, certain ages are not going to have the same consequences, and those are the ones getting recruited to do certain things. That's what I mean. Like people are gonna work around the consequences, and they're gonna find whatever benefits them, right? And we are seeing that.
100%. And I mean, the pitch is simply this: look. Even if things go sideways, even if you're committing first-degree murder, you're going to get out in 2 years. Nobody's going to know your name. You don't have a record. You know, it's the Criminal Youth Justice Act has to be revised. Yes, I believe in second chances. I mean, if you're going for a joyride or shoplifting something, that's one thing. Killing someone in cold blood, that's another. But the Criminal Youth Justice Act, it looks at all crimes under 18 as equal, bizarrely. So anyways, we should move on. Alexa, any more super chats?
Yeah, and we need to stop the catch and release because this is ridiculous. We have a politician, I don't have like the rest, it's just politician something, $2.22, I think it's pound. So I don't know if it's from England. Need more episodes with Alexa, s'il vous plaît. Merci, c'est gentil. We have Rigor 40, $6.99. Keep fighting for the good fight.
Thank you. What else would we be doing?
Exactly. And like recently there is more and more people interested by Rebel News Quebec because we are one of the rare media to speak the truth and to speak it as it is without using white glove and not censoring ourselves. And I think it's why more and more people are getting interested to see like why our mainstream media are not telling what is happening, especially with the public prayer that we are seeing in Montreal. Yep. We are the only one to show what is happening with that. And I think it's why we are growing pretty fast.
Well, Alexa, you know how I feel about your efforts out on the field. L is for Lavoie and L is for Lioness. And you are one mean cat, fearless, and you're doing great work in Quebec. And I totally agree. Yet another disgrace of the mainstream media, how they cherry pick what they'll cover, especially in your province. I think it's especially bad with the media and the police, which I consider to be the worst police service in Canada. And I know that's kind of a photo finish horse race. And by the way, folks, we do back the blue. Even based on what happened to me last year, I got arrested 5 times for practicing journalism in public. But you know what? There are some bad apples, and even more to the point, the brass of the police services have become so politicized. Melanie, is this an observation you've made? We certainly see that in the UK. I mean, that unbelievable story earlier this month where you had female undercover police officers pretending to be joggers in a park. And if they got a compliment, others would call it a cat call, the guy's under arrest. Meanwhile, migrant rape gangs, nothing to see here, move along. Can you explain that?
Well, look, whatever the UK police are doing is whatever the UK police are doing. But there is one thing that I observe that I think is a bit of a problem because it's the same thing in education. I tend to focus on education, but I think within the police or any institution that this is sort of similar, is that they are working, so ordinary police people, men and women, are working under new policies, new DEI policies, right? New culturally relevant policies, shall we call them? And they have to follow those rules. And who gets elevated, who gets promoted is those people who are willing to enact those policies, those DI policies, and so we create a situation where I imagine there's quite a lot of police out there who don't actually believe any of this stuff but have to do it. And there's going to be others that are fully behind it. Like you see with Chris Stacey, some of the police that talk to him clearly hate him, right? And some of the police attacking you, David, obviously, have it in for you as well. So I don't think it's all of them, but they do exist under all of these policies that are being imposed upon them that are just absolutely ridiculous.
No, you know what, Melanie, I think you're bang on. DEI policies that are culturally relevant, as you called it, they got to follow those rules. No, you don't. You know what you follow? You follow the rule of law. That's your bailiwick. This isn't a city council meeting. This isn't a university cafeteria. Just enforce the law. So that's where I stand. Alexa, any more?
Yes, I just want to promote one of my reports that's going to be released soon. People probably remember when I was attacked at Roxham Road by a human trafficker, like a taxi driver. Mm-hmm. So I got attacked again by him, but this time I went and I investigate on this man and I actually challenged him and I faced him. So people don't want to miss that because, as I say, New York, that is a Democrat state, is lawless because he attacked me twice. And the first time I asked the court to know, but what was the ruling? Because apparently he appeared in court. And they say no record. They have no record under what happened to me. And he went again in court for attacking me another time. And I'm pretty sure he will get away with it.
Alexa, that is two things. One is the failure of the system. The second is the failure of this scumbag to be a gentleman. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm a chauvinist. Assaults, all kinds of assaults, they're always bad. But if you are a male assaulting a female, that is especially bad. There's an inherent power imbalance there, and he could do you, some damage. I know you're a tough cookie, but this guy is despicable, and I don't know. Look at that garbage. Punching the phone out of your hand. This son of a bitch should be behind bars as far as I'm concerned. And it's happening in front of law enforcement, right?
Yeah, and it's even worse because, he's presenting himself as a taxi driver. He's doing his business now, not with the city taxi, but he's doing his business with his own vehicle. He doesn't have the rights to do taxi driving since 2000. And this man is driving people to cross illegally into Canada. So I took my courage and I investigate on him, and I went to face him to question him about his business that he's doing, his illegal business, since he doesn't have the rights to do taxi driving. And by the way, since he did attack me the second time, suddenly he changed his driving license?
I don't even know how you do that. But you know what, guys? Could we put up that Stand with Alexa call to action, please, again? Just so if our viewers want to support Alexa in her fearless journalism. Let's see. There you go. Stand with Alexa. And we had another shot of her, didn't we? Okay. You see, what I'm really fishing for, Alexa, is that your hair was so beautiful in that shot. It looked like Farrah Fawcett Majors in the 1970s. So anyway, like I said, I'm a bit of a chauvinist. Melanie, how do you feel about this? Again, it speaks to two-tier or maybe triple-tier or quadruple-tier law enforcement. The refs aren't calling this game, whether it's the police or, in Alexa's case, the people who regulate the taxi cab business.
Well, I feel that, Alexa, you are incredibly brave, and I think that more Canadians should be brave. I'm not saying everybody should take this into their own hands, but, I've had a little bit of experience, and I just mean a little bit of experience of going on the street and trying to interview people, or I've infiltrated this, that, whatever, if you want to call it. And, it does take a lot of nerves. It does take a certain strength of character to face these people, and we need people doing it. And, the mainstream media used to do investigative research like this, go out on the street and, uncover some of these scandals. And as far as I can tell right now, Rebel News is kind of one of the only people doing that. So I wanted to just, not really answering your question, David, but I wanted to thank you, Alexa, because we really need that kind of journalism to expose some of these crazy things that are going on. And I think there's so many Canadians that appreciate that. And I think that, we could take a lot of benefits watching you be brave, and that can help other people gain a little bit of courage and gain a little bit of a backbone. So I just wanted to thank you.
Well, we really appreciate that. And at the risk of this sounding like the Mutual Admiration Society, you're doing great work at Juno, Melanie. And as I said off the hop, your latest piece on the transgender surgery going out in Atlantic, Canada, that is a must read. People should read Melanie's piece on that, because you're going to learn something that the mainstream media are not covering, or actually don't even want you to know, quite frankly. So good for you, Melanie. All right, Alexa.
And we love you, Menzies. You're so courageous. You're funny. You have so much balls. Probably like you're the man with the most balls in Canada. So thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, if only you knew the truth. Anyway. Any other super chats, Alexa?
No, but you're turning red.
I know. I'm blushing. We're good, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're, we're 21 minutes past the hour. Time flies when you're having fun. Melanie, what a delight you were. Loved your insight. Tell our audience where they can read your work, please.
Well, obviously, I write my work gets published on Juno News, but I also have a Substack where all of my individual pieces or articles get published, and that's Melanie Bennet. You can go see it there. Or I've noticed that you guys publish some of my work, which is great. I really love it, but it's not Fingeldusty. It's real Fingeldusty, because my old account was mass reported by some leftist activists and had it removed. So I have a new account called Real Fingeldusty. So that's where you can find me on Twitter.
What nonsense. I mean, yet again, another attack on free speech. You know, our beloved boss man, Ezra Levant, called 2024 rightly the year of censorship. It is continuing all the way into 2025. We have to fight back. So I'm sorry you had to deal with those shenanigans, but I think your investigative pieces, you're knocking it out of the park, Melanie. And Alexa, before we wrap up, last word goes to you.
Yeah, it's really outrageous that the left is doing this, because the other day I posted a video of me being attacked for denouncing the violence towards journalists. And I had to remove the video because I got strike on my Facebook. So same if I try to denounce the violence that I have towards me, I am being actually censored by those platforms. So the left know how to operate. They know how to silence and censor us. It's by using mass, denounce it. Like they all report you massively to Meta, mainly because X is a little bit harder to do it. But it's really sad to see that good people who are doing hard work like you are facing those activists online.
And, you know, Alexa, you raise a really good point. These activists online, it's the fringe minority. It is a squeaky wheel. They're loud, but don't think they're in great numbers. And who I really have contempt for is the gatekeepers who bend the knee to these radicals. Why don't they take a page out of the book of American Eagle? When the left lost their mind over the Sydney Sweeney Jeans campaign, did American Eagle capitulate? Did they bend the knee? Did they pull the poster campaign down? Did they apologize for phony baloney white supremacy images? No, they stood their guns. They stood their ground, rather. And guess what? I haven't checked the stock price recently, but in the first few days, American Eagle stock went up 20%. So you see, there is an appetite out there for bravery. And I hope other whether it's companies or social media platforms, develop a spine, okay? Stand up to the radical lunatics, because they don't speak for the majority of the people. And I'll just leave it at that. Well, ladies, it was such a pleasure. I hope I'll see you again. Melanie, thanks for coming on the panel. As for our audience, thanks for tuning in. A special thank you for everyone that contributed. And hey, thank God it's TGIF. Yeah, I think I screwed that up. But anyways, it's the weekend. I hope you have a lovely weekend. And as always, folks, stay safe and stay sane.
For decades. As a result of a series of trade agreements, starting with the Free Trade Agreement of the 1980s, the Canadian and the U.S. economies have become steadily more integrated, continually more deeply connected. As I've emphasized in recent months, that steady process of integration is now over. And as a result, some of our historic strengths have become vulnerabilities. We can and must adapt to this new reality. That means concentrating on trade, investment, and security partnerships that preserve our sovereignty. And it means striking new trade deals that are robust to different economic circumstances, different governments, because of the mutual benefits to both countries. In all these ways, Canada will move from reliance to resilience, building our strength at home, developing new markets abroad, creating new opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses as we build the strongest economy in the G7.